Hi. Welcome
Hi,
this welcome to this evening. So,
Winnie. We should try in different languages.
welcome.
Konbanwa,
Yes,
konbanwa.
you know, did you see the announcement of Irum Fawad, our partner
yes.
in our team?
Oh
It was
yes.
it was a surprise for her.
Yep.
We
And you
announced
know what? It's
she
her
has
birthday.
birthday. It's her birthday.
Yeah. We're so glad. I mean, birthdays are great things, right? You celebrate this thing where the world has gone around the sun once and it has rotated around 360 times on this 65 even on its axis. And we come back and we get to celebrate.
Yes, we celebrate. We
Yeah.
have to celebrate. And we're so amazed with the work that Irum Fawad and the team in Pakistan, in Karachi, with Saddaf, her best friend Fadaf, and Mr. Jinnah from the S3 Academy at the time when I started off this journey. So,
Yeah. So we're going to talk about wealth of nations, the power of ideas, creativity, all the amazing things, right? That brings about what COP is to many people all around the world, in their homes and in their villages, in their cities.
yes, welcome to this evening.
Yes.
Yes.
So how has you been? How have you been with the whole proceedings? I know you've been following very closely. You've been talking to the people there, in that way. And of course, the news have started with the announcements of money and commitments and everything else. Is it like the best that you can imagine being?
I'm so happy that I'm here together with you and all of you, and it is for you, David, because
Oh, thank you.
yes, because
Thank
when I
you.
first met you, it's like, who is this gentleman from London? And his friend Riccardo, he's Swedish, but
Yes.
he's Italian,
Yes.
and he lives in London together with you as former hedge funds managers. And I was thinking, wow. The life is starting to get interesting because the big money people are starting to connect with us, so that's cool.
Yeah. No, I do remember that. I just sent an email trying to connect. We were looking for people to be able to speak, and we were kind of pointed your way. And you were really generous in giving us time to talk about you. And of course, you've got huge experience. And at the time, we were thinking, what do we know about this, right?
But that's true. You
and you've
you
been
you didn't know much, but you had kind of falling off the
yeah,
cliff, I will say. There was a
and drowning.
you were drowning, and I was like, wow, these
Yes,
gentlemen, they are just to kind of not
push
seeing
him
the
down.
light. They're not seeing the light. They've seen a disaster. You
Yes,
face a disaster, and and uh, and then you start sending me this story about the Ragnarok
yes,
and the
yes, and you
film. And
have that.
I
Yep, in
you
the
look,
background,
I made it for
Ragnarok.
you. I made it for
Yeah,
you. Oh, I'm
thank
sorry.
you, thank
No,
you.
I'll take back my. I don't need my name anymore because I like to see the real story about Ragnarok. Why don't you
Yes.
start by telling the story of Ragnarok?
Oh wow. I mean, it's a Norwegian myth. Is it a myth? It might even be true. I mean, of a time long gone, and this idea that they are the gods and men,
No, but
and
I will sit back, but you tell the story about Ragnarok so
yes,
we can have an. I like to sit here,
yes.
at the end. And you
I have to
see,
remember it. I have to remember it. I mean, it was. I mean, I
it's
came
like
into it through
Ragnar.
Netflix. I came
Netflix.
into it.
Wow,
Yeah,
Netflix. Wow.
yeah. So, oh, don't disappear. I need you to be there.
No,
Otherwise,
but
I
it's like the
can't
lightning.
remember.
The nature is the boss, and I'm scared, and the hedge funds managers are taking over this world, and I'm drowning.
Well, they had these gods, right? I do remember that part of it, and they had these gods, and the gods were quite, they were tall and giants. I think they called them the giants. That's what it was, and they basically it's actually turned into a story of how we end up exploiting the land around us, and because they were immortal and they treated it all like we could go on forever and it doesn't matter. And that became kind of, and then there was a there's a lot of wind noise. Is that the is that you creating the wind noise just to add to the
No,
to all the
it's a beautiful background music here.
okay,
Uh,
okay,
maybe I'll
okay.
just.
I've kind of forgotten it, unfortunately, but I do sort of vaguely remember, and I do remember about how in the end of it, we talked about how it can be a narrative for what we wanted to do, because there's this thing about how people come together in the end to defy the gods, and the gods in Ragnarok were the industrial giants. They represented the heavy industries, the big industries, and the big money, uh, who really paid little respect to the land and everything about it, and then it kind of grew from there, I guess. And actually, what I will say about it is it was a really really good um, series. It was one of these very bingeable series, and I binge watched it. Um, 3 seasons. I binge watched it over. It must have been something like 2-3 days or something. So you can imagine. I didn't go to bed.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's the thing about the good and the evil, and how to transform the big industrial complex that we have. And of course, you 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 reached out to me to talk. Inge, Inge Mette, Equinor or Statoil and the Norwegian Pensions Fund and et cetera, and Ragnarok and how can we transform? How can we buy Norwegian Equinor? And I was like, oh, that this is it's off the cliff too much for me, and then and then we were working together um, with the Eastern African
Yes,
campuses and
yes, yes,
colleges. So
yes,
then I said, okay, it's interesting, and I was like, okay, the World Climate School,
yes.
okay, it's quite interesting to really say yes and welcome to you and Richard. you
Yeah,
know
well, thank you for that. I mean,
yes.
it's been amazing, and we've really benefited from your knowledge and understanding. And we have lots of things that we talked about doing, which we hope we will. Going back to this aspect of kind of you know money, power, all that sort of stuff that we're talking about tonight. You really have disappeared now. I'm gonna need you back.
No, I
Wealth
can
of
see you, but
nations and
I'm just like I love the nature is the boss,
yeah.
and even your King Charles expressed that yesterday from COP.
I think this aspect. I had my friend talk earlier today, a reflection which I had with her, and it was deeply moving for me. So I asked her permission to try and share it, and we edited it down to the essence of it. And the essence of it is this aspect that really we struggle with this acceptance. We struggle with this acceptance that nature will take care of life, but we don't really want to give ourselves, to submit ourselves in that sense to nature and allow it to work through us. Even today, as we look into COP, as we look into all these things, they are very much how we must control it in that sense. And from our perspective, part of this call for it's for you, part of the reasons for this is because deep within our conversations that we've had is the aspect that people actually are making those changes, are making those moves, and they're not always recognized. And so we wanted to create this platform, this opportunity to bring them together. And it's our first time. We don't know where it goes. And the 12 days of COP sounds like a fantastic thing because it reminds me of the 12 days of Christmas. And as you gave for Iram this morning, just now with kind of a birthday gift, we'd love to imagine that the opportunity of it's for you is a gift to everybody everywhere.
Yeah.
That maybe they can take up, and we will see how it goes. I had a
So absolutely, David. But I'm not giving up on you on this Norwegian story with Equinor and oil, gas, and coal, and the story of that's the essence, isn't it? In at COP 28, uh,
well, the essence. I mean,
putting the lid, putting a brutal stop. How to? What is the horizons? We have to touch it because you are your book that you wrote, The Unsustainable Truth. Uh,
I'm going to bring it up here. There it goes.
oh,
Oops. There it goes.
oops.
The unsustainable truth.
Yeah, from a
Yeah.
business perspective, and
Yes.
the uh, the climate activist. We need that story of not being activist anymore. It's like breaking out of the circles, isn't it? Everybody. It's
Well,
that's what it is. It's for everyone. It's
you know,
for
we
you.
we had we had a very, very, we were very privileged to be able to have Erkki Liikanen, who is the former finance minister and central bank governor of Finland, to provide us with the testimony on the book, where she talks about how the book vividly tells about the choices of individuals on the basis of ethics or economics and impacts the outcome. And that very much is, the essence of our book in that way. And this aspect of choice comes into this. And when you talk of Equinor and those things, we met over our idea of the fact that what we call transformational ownership. We are staunch capitalists at heart. We believe in the wealth of nations in that way, in sort of Adam Smith, in that kind of pure capitalism in those sense. But that's a capitalism where ownership has responsibility, and the owners have to be the ones responsible.
Mm.
So when we look today into the big oil companies, into the big gas companies and the big coal companies, and we look today, what happens is we have lost that understanding. It's the owners, the management are the executives, they are the servants of the owners. So our idea of transformational ownership is actually to place that responsibility back, to replace the owners from ones who are motivated and need the money, and by ones who look to these assets as commons and global commons. And if you think about that, there is only one group of people who can do that, and that's you, that's me, that's everybody. So really, that's the extent to which we really need to transform that ownership. And when we talked about the people, many of them kind of rejects that idea. They think it's as some sort of a socialist confiscation of assets and things, and it's anything but that. It is a very, very much a capitalist idea of using the power of our spending in order to put a lid on the devastations that climate is creating.
Yeah.
And and that understanding, I think, is still too alien for many people. We've spoken to many people, and maybe is too ahead of its time or whatever. But as you say, as you bring it up today, it's very important we do bring it up, because that is still our passion, that is still our motivation, and we feel that, as you say, going over the cliff, we may all be heading over a cliff, but we need to construct for ourselves ledges so that when they go over, there are little ledges for us, kind of ropes so that will help us to find our way. And as we say with rethinking choices,
Yeah,
we've come to appreciate it's about navigating climate change.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, I would like to continue the conversation and by going back to COP 26 in Glasgow. I was there, and sorry to say, but I didn't go to the blue zone, and I was like 10 meters away from the green zone. I never entered into all the
Oh,
bus.
really?
No, no, I'm ashamed, in fact. I'm ashamed. But you
Uh,
know what happened is that the in Glasgow, especially the cultural stage in Glasgow, was vivid
yeah.
with plenty of parallel activities in all directions outside the central stage at the expo center of COP 26 at the time. And I stayed with Nico from Zimbabwe, with my friend Sadaf, who is part of the team, and we talked about comedy and tragedy and the cultural aspect of COP. In addition to that, I was invited to be at the Journal of New Economics in Glasgow to be co-producing the a full day program with Bangladesh and Mohammed Yunus and the Erasmus Plus project C6. So we were like connected to a creative C6 with C6 six C's, creative collaborative culture to combat climate change, and 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 the spark of creativity, the idea that the creativity is a source for survival in crisis so much. But the most important thing, because this is was in the student union hall of the Alexandrian club or union at the student hall of Glasgow University, and that is the legacy of Adam Smith and the wealth of nations. And we started off by saying ideas do matter. You know, there is ideas that we have to direct and follow and is mature to a market or to a livelihood or engagements or hearts, and that is our art, or what can I say. But take a lead about economics and Adam Smith, and from a place of the city of London and as a hedge fund manager. I'd love to hear your perspectives on ideas do matter. I can maybe you're talking, but I
Yeah, no, no. I just realized I was muted, or one of
yeah
these things. You'd have thought after 3 years after COVID, we'd all appreciate just how to press the mute button to unmute ourselves, and all those things. But I think what I will do though is to start with that creative side and that aspect. You introduced us to a great person that you had met at Glasgow, Nico, and we had been preparing together a bit of a comedy take, what we call "Who Tipped Over the Tipping Point." How to keep the world laughing sustainably, and we're going to do that show that every night, because it was a great time together doing
yes,
those things.
let's
So
go there.
so
Let's talk to Nico from Zimbabwe. And by
yeah.
the way, Zimbabwe is having the National Tree Planting Day today. Uh,
Oh,
yes, and we're waiting for new stories to come up and to share with our audience, and it's for you, because
yeah.
the book of trees is on some of those stories we like to share with you, all of you. So, but
Okay.
take a lead on the and bring us to Glasgow and to the stage of comedy, and it is for you. And definitely, I know that the battle of good and evil and climate change is too serious to make a joke out of it. But still, we have
No. It's the opposite. If it's not, I mean, we only joke. We make good jokes about really serious things. So until we can actually get to them being really serious, just think about all the satire, all the literature, satirical literature, all the literature that comments on society and how our lifestyles have been, way back when,
okay.
and you talked earlier today about the Greek, the Greek, the style of the tragedy and the comedy,
Yes.
the balance of the two, how it's important to have that. So
Yes. When that Athens was a city-state, it was like 20,
yeah,
30,000 inhabitants, and they had the theaters,
yes,
the agora, and the
yes,
polis, and the tragedy and the comedy, and you actually could make
yes,
comedy and laugh at it. So you get like multiple perspectives, and
exactly.
theater as a playback stage for the serious problems to have
Yep.
get the shadow side forward. But anyway, so yeah, let's humbly bring on
That's,
some laughter in these late
yes,
hours from
yes,
Europe. Over to you.
yep.
Everybody, and welcome to Who's Tipping Over the Tipping Point. This is a comedy quiz show featuring various bits and aspects with the sole purpose of ensuring that you can keep on laughing sustainably, of course, nothing else. So with me today, I obviously have the other half, Dr. David Coe, but he's not the interesting bit, because we have up in the cold depths of Scotland, we have Nico with us. And more importantly, we have Katie Critchlow with us. And from much sunnier part, we have Ian Kaplan with us. So, welcome. And the format here is a little bit loose, but we are supposed to score points based on various segments of the show. And we're going to start out looking at basically the most unsustainable products we could pick up. So I'm going to hand over to David, and he's going to send us off with the first product. And then we're going to have a little bit of a reasoning around why we love this product so much and what we see as a future for it. So, David, off you go. You get the first pick.
And maybe I'd love to give a little bit more of an introduction of the various people. So, myself and Richard, we've come from very much a hardcore investment background. So we understand about how you persuade people to buy things they don't need. That's basically our skill, our superpower there. Nico, actually, he's living up in Scotland, so he's way up in the north, but he comes from Zimbabwe, which is way down in the south. So he represents that union between what people call the global north and the global south. Now, how that ended up in Scotland, I don't know, but maybe he'll tell us. And Katie has an illustrious career within the sustainability and actually within the commercial area of actually making the businesses to be how we dream of businesses becoming. And so she has that experience and maybe some of the cynicism that can color just how we can look at the products and really understand what goes on behind the scene. And Ian is there. He is from a background where he's entrepreneurial and has been about how you can bring technology and bring entrepreneurial spirit to products. And Richard and I tell him, you know what, as soon as the money gets in there, it all gets corrupted. And so we have great fun talking about that. So thank you very much for everybody. And now let's bring on some of these things. I have no idea what this is.
Wow. It's got the name of the owner. It's lost.
Yeah, Mary is lost.
Yeah. That's Proud's long lost sister, or?
Well, I think the first part of it is it actually turns out it's a similar thing to what we talked about, but I didn't realize this. That's what it is. So there you go.
What does it say? Great.
Can anyone figure out what it is?
It is one of the vapes as disposable.
I'm looking at it. It is like, it feels like there could be some liquid in there, given that it's a plastic container. I think they've tried to harbor some liquid, but it's hard to say how big it is. It could be really tiny, actually, or it could be like, pint, half-liter sized container. I'm not sure.
Yes. Well, I'm going to take it off screen now, and then actually I can. So who would like to hazard a guess at what that was? I mean, clearly we are mixing in the wrong crowds.
Yeah.
Is it a little thing to smoke weed?
It might be a little thing to smoke weed. What other choices are there? I think it's just a fancy little hand sanitizer thing, maybe.
I'm thinking this is concentrated grape juice, basically pure glucose for all the hard-working cyclists that are shepherding goods around London, and they basically use this as legalized doping to pump up more sugar in the form of thick flowing honey-style grape juice, because you removed everything but the sugar.
So this is your payment for working for Deliveroo. Is that what you're talking about?
No. This is company-sponsored drugs to keep them going. Basically,
Okay.
They get handed out a few of these.
It might be. What about you, Nico? Have you seen this in Zimbabwe or in Glasgow?
No, in Glasgow, Glasgow's more what's called more developed. They got better stuff to do. They're in the top class when it comes to these things in Glasgow. This one for me, I was thinking about. This is one of those people do dirty stuff in the car parks.
I'm not sure what you do in car parks. I normally park and get out of there. I find them quite unnerving. It's too many action movies when you see people get assaulted and shot and that. Car parks is a no-go, really, for me. I don't hang around there a lot, I have to confess. I really don't.
No, but nowadays there's a new group of vapes together, and they text each other. They're going to smoke in that corner, wherever it is. This one looks like it's written lost. It's lost. It means, so if you find it, please bring it back.
Yes, and of course I'm going to show you what it is, and oops, the thing I did find is stopped. So there it is. It is in fact, Lost Mary is a disposable vape. It's a double drip disposable vape. And how do we know it's disposable? Any guesses how we know it's disposable? Because we just throw it on the ground. We just litter the ground with it afterwards. That's how we know it's disposable. That's the idea there. Disposable grapes. Okay. So should we do you fancy giving some points to that one, or do you think that's
No, on this one I think we can pass. So.
0 points for disposable Mary. Okay.
0 point.
I still think Proud Mary is still going strong, though.
No,
Proud Mary. So
for recycling environmental problems, Lost Mary can be found on car parks, railways, seaside, and the litters. She can be anywhere. She just go everywhere, and she's not good for the environment actually, because she can get to the water and everywhere. We don't know how much the gas left in that one when they throw it away. Maybe there's a bit, but if there's a bit times 100 of them, that's maybe 20 liters of whatever the thing goes to the field. But anyway,
but Nico, most importantly, do the big wheels keep on turning? That's what I'm thinking when I see her.
So here's one thing that you didn't realize before about vapes, and this, I'm going to share this along, which I think we can see at to stage along, and there you go. Now this is the RSPCA website, which is the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. So, and here you are. vapes is part of the dangerous to animals, because when they get onto it and they start smoking, they get addicted, or they start vaping, they get addicted. So you have to be careful about what that is.
Which animal?
Cruel.
Which animal is smoking now? Which one?
Well, it's a special trick so that they can do. But actually, so I mean, I'm sure many people are not aware. They are single-use plastic, because you use it and then you chuck it away. Dispose, lost Mary. But Mary doesn't become lost. It becomes found, lost and found, and it's found by all the animals around. They get washed out to sea. And the batteries apparently can even catch fire. So they get eaten by birds and fish and marine animals, and they think it's food. How about that? That grape juice, concentrated grape juice, that's amazing candy strawberry flavor. They like it too. So just be careful about what that means for it. So there you go.
Ooh.
And so the call here is very clear. Make sure we move to not have them, ban them along, and you can take action. Contact your MPs, contact your representatives, and of course, there's something else that you can do yourself. Any guess what that might be? Any
Get a
suggestions?
nice reusable vape.
Yeah, you switch to reusable. Clearly, I mean, that's the first thought. Become more sustainable. Don't use single-use vapes. Use the regular stuff.
You can not vape yourself. Even go for the nicotine gum. That's reusable. That's, as Katie's auntie's shown, or you can reuse it. Gum is reusable. Vapes are not. So
you can guarantee, though, because this is one of the things that really gets me, the reusable throwaway stuff, where they just bring in like, oh, actually, don't worry, it's throwaway, but it's made from seashells, or it's made from, some sustainable plastic that's come from somewhere, so it's fine to just throw it away. And that's one of the things, straws, cups, whatever. So I'm sure the industry will fight back with some kind of terrible, still single use, but made from some bamboo or something like that. The cul-de-sac of sustainability is just one of the things that riles me more than anything else.
I have this image of bamboo. You get bamboo toilet paper and all those things now. You get bamboo everywhere.
Yes.
And I have this image. Have you seen bamboo grow? They kind of like grow a foot a day kind of thing, and they spread. So I have this image of them breaking out of their plantations and taking over the world, like the triffids in, I don't know if you ever saw the day.
I really want to know what you use in your vapes, Really want to know.
It's the Viagra.
For me, I wanted to ask what happened to the smoking pipes back in the day in 60s and 40s in Africa, for example. Was there those round in the front, round one? Then you put the tobacco on the top and you light it up and.
Oh yeah.
Those are vapes. You know what I mean? So
the original vape, the Sherlock Holmes pipe. Yeah.
Because the West, they always dance in. You see, like our doctors, they call witch doctors. What the fuck? They're really good doctors. They can't say doctor, witch doctor. Our vape pipes, they call smoking pipe. Anyway, let's don't go political. I think I'm just thinking. If I want to turn things around, I can actually sue all the vapes companies and say, that was my great-grandfather's design. But you messed it up. You messed it up, man.
There is something very comforting about the pipe, though. I think there are very few things that actually impairs wisdom like a pipe. If you have a pipe, you're top dog. Really, you are. Irrespective in the sort of content on which you decide to pull it out and light it up. Anyone who does that, you bow to the wisdom and the sheer gravitas of having the ability to bring out the proper pipe. I think that's still quite cool, actually.
Yeah. So the pipe should stay.
We have to bring this up. I have to bring this up now. There you go. There you go. The pipe there.
The Sherlock Holmes.
No, that one, David, that was not the African one. That is not. That's a copy. I'm talking about the village one. Really.
Yeah, that's a teensy little one. That's no gravitas. A proper pipe is like Gandalf, right?
Gandalf.
You need 2 hands to support it as you puff it.
Yeah,
along.
exactly. When you
That's
lie,
the
you have to
pipe.
hold it.
Yeah, it should be almost like, you know, a pan flat saxophone in the size as you puffing along. That is gravitas.
Okay, so this is
You know
this
that,
is what I found for the African pipe. Is this the African pipe?
I don't know what's that. It looks like a man was working on the pipe or something.
I think it's an oil pipe.
Yeah, or a nat gas pipeline.
Oh yes, yes. That's you know, I was going to add up something yesterday when I was thinking about the verbs. I went to Weatherspoon to meet my friend. I know it's bad. Then all the stuff the wedding teacher says, think of your mouth. I'm like, wow, what advert is this? Think of your mouth. You know, as a comedian, I came up with so many rude stuff, but I decided, so that means think of your mouth. Your verbs is calling, verb is calling. It's very good. I don't know. I didn't finish what I was going to write about it, but it's a very strange uniform they've got in Weatherspoons. Think of your mouth. Forget about their food. Their food is rubbish anyway.
But it's a weird association. Okay. Yeah, I feel a bit uncomfortable about that. You know, it's like, is the food not safe?
Okay, so we have Nico with us. So there we have. And he's going to take that away there. Nico, can you hear us there? I think you, let's unmute that mic. Let's try to unmute that mic. How do I do?
I can hear you, David. I can hear you.
Yeah, now we can. So how have you, I see you're traveling in a very sustainable manner. It seems like you are like in a train. Are you in a train from Dubai, or are you in a train?
I'm having the horrible trip of my life.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. I hope it's not because of the recording we just made. I hope you haven't been swamped
It's
with
good.
the post.
No, you guys are cheering me up. You guys are making me laugh. That's good.
Okay. So, Inga.
Many people did watch our program today.
Yeah, I think we had 3 people watching.
You know, well, there is no watchdogs on climate change.
Yes.
So Nico, hi. I can see your not. I cannot see your eyes, but it's okay. Wow.
Now we can see your eyes.
What happened in London? You know, were there no cups in London, or the cups are in Glasgow, or where are the cups? Well, let's talk about cups. Not cups to drink, but cups. In Glasgow, there were a lot of cups, you know. Police.
Yeah, that's true. So they have no directions.
No, they didn't know any directions. They were sent up from London. Nico and myself, we met through a network of social artists, artists across borders, and we work with Chetna in India, Uri in Italy, and theater people. And during COVID, we started to have online comedy shows. Isn't it so, Nico? and one of the things what we learned from I really like the comedy show that the tipping over the tipping point that you created. But you know, I tell you from my real life, you know, I was in Glasgow for COP26, and I was staying as a guest in Nico's house, and we were
a group of people working together. And then I was up and running early morning and producing this and that and connecting to the world from the early morning in the breakfast table of Nico in his house and apartment. And then I also had this kind of journey to going outside and look at the beautiful the river across Glasgow, you know. And I went to the mouth of that, what's the name called again, Nico? Then the name.
I forgot what's called, but I know what you talk about.
Neil, something like this.
Yeah.
You should probably know David. But then again, I went out and I was talking with Chet. Now I will also be bring on the into our conversations through during this 12 days of COP, and I picked up those this kind of weight things on the floor as I was standing out there in the beautiful park, and I kept it in my pocket, and I didn't know what it was. I'd never seen anything like that, and I was traveling all around the world, and suddenly into Paris at the station, I was stopped by the securities at the at the station, and I was looking at my pockets for that thing, that wipe pattern or something, and I was like scared. What is it? And say, well, kids use it. And I was like, okay, and I was picking it up from the park in Glasgow as a souvenir that I've never seen before, and I knew it was not a pattern to a gun, but anyway, that was my story with the pollution or the products that we do not need, that is actually hitting the market big time. Over to you, David. Now you look a little bit sad after the conversation here with tipping over the tipping point. And again, we can't hear you because you are actually unmuted.
There you go. One day I will learn. One day. Unfortunately, the senior moments are coming on faster than my learning moments, so it's kind of tipping over in that way. but anyway, products we don't need. The world is full of them, and very often they look like things that we need, or just on the margin. It's nice to get and all the rest. But ultimately, today when people talk about what do we do, and in fact it goes very much down to this aspect of how will businesses navigate through climate change. I think one of the basic things that Richard and I are really adamant about is that the cost of living have a lot to do with climate devastations. The Panama Canal, for example, is largely shut now because of the lack of water. It takes 200 million liters of water to get one boat across the canal. Not many people know of that. 200 million liters, that's a lot of baths, I can tell you. And so the price for getting a boat through it has gone escalating up, and the queue lengths have grown enormously, and people are now trying to find their way around. And of course, the storms are getting bigger, and so the chances of boats being sunk and losing containers is likely to be higher. And all of that increases the price of our insurance. And of course, it's our insurance that we pay, the house insurance and all those things. Because the insurance companies, you can bet your life that they will still make money. They will do it by not insuring the thing that basically has too much risk along, or charging you more for the insurance on your car or your home and those sort of things. So in that situation, navigating through climate change is really, for business, really about figuring out what people genuinely need. And to do that, they really need to connect with them. You can't really go forward and just think, I create this thing called Lost Mary, and it's lovely, beautifully colored purple, it's cute, great flavor, and somehow that's going to sell. Yeah, it's going to get tough. It's going to get tough, even for things which are very addictive in that way.
Yeah. So Absolutely. But on this conversation, as you can see, I'm sitting here in front of the fire, and it's a fireside chat, hot topics for a hotter planet. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's like those intimate conversations, and it is for you and your family, and the local context of bringing ideas forward, but also bringing conversation that is dear to the heart. And the heart and the art is like pulsing for something that is important for us as human species on the planet. And I think artists have something to give us all. And by saying that, I like.
Dubai.
Yes, you're leaving us.
I say, are you in Dubai? Are you in Dubai too?
Are you in
Dubai?
Okay, go on.
No, I'm not in Dubai. I'm here. Are you in Dubai? Are you traveling? No, I'm not in Dubai. I'm just sitting here, up north. It's freezing cold outside. It's up to 20 degrees minus. It's like a fridge outside, and the fire is on in the back. So it feels nice and cozy to talk about important things. And the fire.
Have you got any marshmallows? Can we roast some marshmallows?
No marshmallows. But I'm talking about the importance of artists.
Oh, yeah.
And to talk about activists and action. So I like to share with you the conversation I had with Sveinung Nygård the other day, and he's having bards for climate, and bards are like speaking the truth. They are like skulls. They are like medicine men or time. And let us play the clip again, and we're going to invite him back on the 6th of December, because then they've been doing the every morning session with creativity, and they call it the prism. And it's like having important speeches that goes through an artist's heart and consciousness and comes out with a different story. So here we are setting over to the bards and Sveinung Nygård.
Timelines and economic situations we have to find beautiful. And it just dawned on me that process can be applicable to other parts of life, and being trained in the chaotic chaos pilot environment can help you finding different tangential ways of looking at the world. And also we find we have a different language as artists that is not necessarily word-based, and not necessarily rational, but it's emotional. And some of the problems we face now in the world is they are not rational, they are emotional and identity-based. And so this brought me to think that, okay, hang on, let's see if we challenge artists and challenge myself to get involved in some way on this stage in the climate. So our one of the things we have been doing and we want to do leading into during COP28, which we have been doing COP26 and 27, is through our network involve artists to listen. So we have an idea called the prisms. Prisms is a glass where the light hits it and it's diffracted into different colors. And this is our website that you can see here now. And prisms is challenging artists to be hit by a technical political talk. So you listen to it, and when you listen to it, and in the immediate period after it, you reflect back on what you felt. Is there something underlying, something you need to read between the lines, something you can present in a different way? So you apply your creative chaos pilot mindset to this process, and then you make art quick. You make your art fast, in a working day or less, and then you present it back to the world and to the speaker and to yourself. So there are 3 audiences for this. It's yourself. You will be changed by doing this because you will learn to listen. And the audience will benefit from this because they will get the message, or the message that's inspired by the original message, in a different way, in an emotional language that is through you. And there also the idea of showing this back to the speakers, which we did very successfully through LinkedIn, and they were very surprised and glad to be listened to in this way. Not just agreeing or disagreeing, it's way beyond that. It's more like, what do I feel? And our emotions can be good if we practice our emotions. So we will do this at different folkhögskolor, different schools here in Sweden, but also online at a couple of dates here. So you can go to our website, bardsforclimate.com, and you'll see the dates when you click here. And then we have a sign-up form and a Zoom link that we will use. And these are the dates that we will be presenting 2 days here at a Nordic songwriting school in Kungälv, just north of Gothenburg. And then we'll do different online sessions, like you can see here, from 9 till 5 o'clock. Then we have a IRL in real life at the studio here in Gothenburg, and 2 online ones. So check that out. Here you can also read about the prisming process and how that you prepare, you set up, you're ready mentally and physically, you have a space to do it. You meet the others, you talk a little bit about what COP28 is and what's been shared. You listen to the talk together. We know that people are busy, so we don't expect you to do a full day. You can if you want to. The important thing is that you are focused for the time you work on it, and that you're honest, and you don't spend too much time. This is also a way to overcome writer's block. So be fast, be intuitive, be on the ball. So don't make it more than a day, but you can make it in less than a day. So that we talk for half an hour just to meet each other, and then we can watch the talk together, or you can watch it on your own. And then you work on your own. So it's quite flexible in that way. So here we start at 9. 1 day here, 9 o'clock on these online ones. You can also do it on your own, but maybe it's good to do it first with somebody going through the values, because we have. It's important for us to be value driven, that we have a responsibility as artists, and we have some values, to be honest, constructive and collaborative. So we're together and want to be constructive, not to tear down, but to build up. Yeah, I think so. We need to be, there are many roles to play, and I wouldn't say that activists are wrong in any way to be confrontational. There is a place for that, but we have chosen a different complementary path also here. So we can have a different voice in this. And yeah, maybe I forgot to say that we'll be sharing. One important thing is, if you want to, you can share back through our Instagram account, where you can. We do it this way. So here you'll see our Instagram account, and we hold up a piece of paper, and we share what we have done. This is important. So these are different prisms we have done on our Instagram called Prisms of Bards. So this is one way. So yeah.
Before we close, explain what is a bard.
A bard can be many things to many people. Traditionally, it was one person that was employed by the king. To praise the king and to say good things about the king. This is not what we want to do. A bard for us is an artist who takes up the mantle or the torch of being relevant and collaborative, and collectively using his or her art form to make a change in the society around him or her. So it's taken up a value-based mantle of responsibility, that my art makes a change, makes a difference, can make a difference. We wanted to make it the best possible difference. And it's not in going to propaganda, which the old bards probably were. But this role of bards is all around the world. You see it in the role of the bauls in Bangladesh, the shair in Arabia, minstrels and the bards and the skald. All over the world, there have been active artists who have played a role in a society. And I feel part of the role of art is to to make a difference, and how you do it and what you want to do is up to you. But we have to build something better, and we have a role to play in that. So we're taking the word bards to use in that respect.
Yes, and very difficult question at the end. The ultimate goal for COP28. Are you able to express, like, is there any, what comes to your mind, like, Svanning, what do you want to see manifest for the world at COP28?
Oh, I would like people to see people's inner motivations change. So that's not very measurable at all. I would like to hear people talk about what their dreams are for a new future, and what how they will take practical steps, and less about depression and the horrible things that can happen, but more about, okay, what can we taking on a positive in the midst of this? It would be amazing. So if there would be some voices in Dubai that would present a not optimistic, but a difficult path, but a path with benefits for the future, that would be amazing for me.
Yes, so that's I think that's is a little bit aligned with my hope as well. And when you look at the graphics that we created, it looks like a champagne explosion of creativity and optimism. And in the midst of all the tragedy that is happening on the planet, it's really to let the artists actually to get their hearts come forward and have some kind of intuition of coming together as humans again, and to reconnect with nature. So
exactly. I think because this problem is such a complex one, we have to be organic about it. We have to allow different voices. We have to be value based, but not and find this path together, and respect the global south, respect what's going on all over the world, and see how we can be together and be more collaboratively orientated than conflict orientated.
Absolutely. I think we can continue our conversation for again and again, and it can continue, but let's take this as a first step, and I will look forward to join you on the 1st of December at 9 o'clock in the morning. So
yeah, please
yes.
do. Please do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very impressive, very interesting. So,
did you like it?
And I did. It's I'd like to share something that conversation you had with he talked about activism, and he talked about those things. And let me bring Nico along on stage as well. And just muting him down for a moment. And he talked about those sort of things, and I found that activism amongst young people in the richer developed countries, and activism amongst young people in somewhere like Kenya and so on, come in very different forms. In somewhere like Kenya, it's about the things that they're doing and so on. And you had an amazing conversation yesterday, I believe, or maybe the day before, with a young lady called Salome, who is going to that. And I'd love to bring that conversation on if that's okay, because I think that illustrates that difference there. And activism, there's so much about coming together.
Yes, absolutely. Before you bring that on, I like to read news that I just got in from Dubai right now, and it's from a Zimbabwean. And,
Nico.
and it's a Zimbabwean gentleman who is in Dubai.
I'm hungry.
And his name is Kwanele Labang, I believe. But he is this message. I'll read it. I just forwarded it to you as well on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is saving us. You know, that's the speed learning. It's part of the micro learning that's going on the planet. Well, very promising developments around climate finance from COP28. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and United Arab Emirates announced that they are each donating $100 million to help small farmers adapt to climate change. Separately, the Best Earth Fund says it will put 50 million US dollar into climate food solutions that include developing low methane livestock. That's a funny one. Low methane livestock. At COP28, that's really funny. African climate finance opportunities are the key theme. President Ruto of Kenya today, we are consolidating our potential into opportunities. It's all about eating, Nico. It's all about food security. And it's all about fast food. You know, Nico, the marketing for fast food, it was a very good thing. They should have they put the S into it, but it should only been fat food. It's a joke.
Well, actually, you know, that's exactly what it is, right? So you
It's a
start
fat
off with
food.
the fast food, and then you eat the S bit first, and then what you're left with is exactly what you say. And Nico,
Yes.
you're going to tell us that's exactly what you're having.
Yeah, sorry. Well, be careful, Nico.
It's a
No,
happy crowd there.
it's a
It's a happy
crowd.
crowd there. So this is indeed great news. Absolutely, to be able
But it
to.
brings you into the conversation that I had with on food security and women empowerment. So please, let's listen to our talk. Over to
Yeah.
you.
Yes, let me do that. And
Okay. Hello. Thank you so much, and glad connecting with you today. Hello there, Inga, from Norway, and glad to have today our guest, Salome. And I want to welcome Salome from Nairobi, Kenya, to introduce herself as we kick off our interview today. So it's glad to have Salome, and just to allow her to introduce herself, tell us who she is, what she does, and as we get along. Thank you so much. Welcome, Salome.
Thank you, Collins. My name is Salome Wunda. I'm the Executive Director at Africa Center for Sustainable and Inclusive Development, where we work with marginalized communities on peace and conflict transformation, economic empowerment, and climate change. And beyond that, I'm climate, gender, social inclusion expert with a specific focus on food systems. And at a very personal level, I'm a Kenyan woman living in Nairobi, coming from one of the marginalized areas in the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Salome, and I'd love probably to hear from Inga as well, where she is. Yeah, welcome, Inga.
Thank you, Collins. I'm in Norway. I'm on the west coast up north, approximately 8 hours in a car in the winter time to Oslo. By the fjord, we have snow. It's 0 degrees outside, so it's a fridge. It's not as hot as in Dubai and in Kenya. So I'm the co-founder of the World Climate School, and that took shape during the COVID. But beyond that, I've been working on circular economy and sustainable fashion for the last 20 years. And I'm saying that I'm from fast fashion to fast learning. I like everyone to go back to school. Also Greta Thunberg, I like her to go back to school. Let's all start learning something new, and especially when it comes to sustainable lifestyle and living, and even the way we choose to eat is a habit that has an influence on the overall climate system. So I'm so happy to know that Salome, that in fact you are traveling to Dubai. That's must be feel like it's something big, you know. Have you been to COP before? Tell us more.
Thank you very much, Inga. It's exciting. It's exciting to get this opportunity to travel to Dubai and engage with the people who are like-minded, who believe in the possibility of the actions on climate changing this world and helping in protecting the planet and protecting the humanity at large. This is not my first. This is my second time going to COP. I attended the COP27 at Sharm el-Sheikh, and I'm lucky to be supported by the same organization that supported me last year, the Global Alliance for the Future of Food, to attend the 2 COPs. And one of the interesting things that came out of my COP27 engagement is the different and the diverse people that we met, and the inspiration that I got out of the people that I engaged with in COP27, which is one of the things that has informed the development or creation of this organization that I have today, the Africa Center for Sustainable and Inclusive Development. It's a new organization that we have established this year in May. And the inspiration that I got, the people we engage with, the work they're doing, and the need to act now is what made me able to start this together with friends and people in the professional setting. So I'm really looking forward to what this COP28 is going to give me, and the people we are going to engage, and the outcome of the discussions, because that is very important. I'm hoping that we're going to take the discussion seriously, and we're going to look at the sustainability of these negotiations that are going to come, and we're going to come out with outputs that are having impact on the people at the grassroots, so that we don't just talk and we just don't attend COP, but the output that we have, the statements that we're going to have, are going to have specific impact on the people, and people are really going to take responsibility, and people are going to keep their promises that they're going to make at COP28. I'm having a specific interest on the loss and damage discussions, because that is something that is very real and happening to our communities, the marginalized communities that I'm dealing with are experiencing the loss and damage as a result of climate change. So that is something that I'm interested in following. I'm interested in following the food and agriculture discussion. They came up with the Sharm el-Sheikh joint work on agriculture last time, but we haven't had much out of it since COP27. The meeting at Bonn didn't give us much, and the discussions on food systems, which is the sustainable way of discussing food and agriculture, is still missing in this agriculture and food discussion. So I'm looking forward to inclusion of food systems approach in these decisions. And I'm also looking forward to the global goal on adaptation, what is going to give us, and if we are going to end up with the indicators that we want to really use for this food and agriculture discussion, adaptation discussions, and how effective or efficient are they to the marginalized communities? Are we going to only talk about the measurable indicators? Because we have immeasurable indicators that the indigenous peoples are already using to adapt to climate change. So how is that really going to be considered in the discussion? And of course, the gender discussions, I want to see the diversification of gender needs and interests. How are they taken care of in the final statements that we're going to have in COP? So I have a lot of interest. I hope I'll be able to follow all of them. And I hope we're going to come up with proper and effective outputs in our discussions. Thank you.
Wow, it's a lot. It's a lot to do, and it's a lot of a very important, not fights, but you know, the seeds to be planted for good, so it can grow. And metaphorically, you know, we have to. From Kenya, you do have the Green Belt movement from Wangari Maathai and the legacy of UNEP being the head office for the world in Nairobi. So in many ways, like from my perspective, the legacy for COP28, it is my prayer and hope that this will be for the youth of Africa. It will be a huge celebration, you know, and how that can be manifested, because I think many of you are being able to go to this COP in Dubai, in spite of the expenses to be in Dubai, because it's expensive to stay for a week or so in a 5-star beautiful hotel in Dubai. It's so let me what's the next question you have, Collins? Do you have prepared any questions you like to explore further?
Okay, thank you, Inga, and thanks Salome for that outstanding introduction. I'll pick it up from something you mentioned about food, just being open. How the connection between food, health, and climate, and the fact that you have worked with communities and the indigenous groups. Give us that clear picture and why that linkage is very important in the climate discussion.
Thank you, Collins. The linkage is very important in climate discussions because it informs the adaptation and mitigation actions at the same time. When you're talking about adaptation, we need to talk about how climate resilient are our crops that we are planting. So those are the things that we are discussing with the indigenous peoples in Kenya, and we are going beyond the crops to the livestock breeds that we have. How climate resilient are they? Because we see instances where farmers or pastoralists lose thousands of livestock as a result of climate change, as a result of prolonged drought. We have experienced this in Kenya. It was just last year where we lost millions. Our work is to look at how to make, how to help our farmers to make decisions that are climate resilient. And one of them is through the crops that they're taking, through the breeds that they're taking up, and also to help them understand and be able to adapt to the changing climate. So when we talk about the seeds, which seeds do we have in the market, and who is owning the seeds? Who is controlling the movement of the seeds? And this is where we find that the indigenous communities are very important because they own these indigenous seeds that are climate resilient. They are good for the weather that we have. They're good for the soil that we have. they are able to sustain the harsh climatic conditions that we have in most parts of this country. So how do we involve them, and how do we support them to keep storing and passing on these seeds? And the other part, the other population that is very important or plays a big role in this are the women, because in the traditional African setup, the women control the seed, especially the crop seed. So how do we involve them, and how do we ensure that these rights are not taken away from them? But also, I was talking about going beyond the adaptation to the mitigation perspective. How does our food impact the emissions that we have, and how do the emissions impact the food that we have availability and accessibility? So that calls for people to take responsible action, to be responsive and responsible in their actions around the climate, around the food, and that is from the entire value chain, from the production to the transportation to the consumption. So that calls for the farm to fork approach in our discussions and in our actions on food systems. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your very clear and good perspectives that you have, and I can see your passion and dedication. It's profound. So I wish you all good luck in Dubai. You would be, we empower you and bless your journey big time. I think the kitchen and cooking and food is the most important aspect in climate change or climate education. And for the World Climate School as well, it's like having outdoor kitchens in an African context, how we can really work with kitchen gardening and apple trees, fruit trees in the schoolyards. How can that be part of the livelihood of a community? The schools as an educational system, and with teachers and the schools as part of the importance of learning community. So for the World Climate School, we're working with Foundation for Literacy and Mathematics, but in addition, climate literacy, how we can really engage children from a kindergarten to the parents, to the grandparents, and in the family as a whole, in the community. And with my background I've been living in Egypt as well, and I've been working in the desert on the oasis of Siwa, which on the western desert towards Libya. So to really living in the desert and like a harsh and dry and hot area is a challenge for humanity. And also with my reference to Zimbabwe and how we can see when the droughts come year after year, you know, how to have food security and to build the resilience of communities, and to really say that this is climate change is not a joke, it's serious. So how can we really work with small scale farmers throughout Africa, and how can we get climate activists into food security and education more than activism? Because it doesn't make sense to not going to school if you're not in school, you know. We have to empower teachers, we have to empower children and the youth of communities. Could you share some of your perspectives on this, how you see it, Salome?
Inga, that is a very interesting approach of including the schools and including the children and including the students when they're still very young, so that they grow up in this, having this information and being able to pass it to the other people. We can't leave them out, because we need people to grow up with this food systems approach in them, knowing this information, because we talk about information and say information is power. So if we leave them out, then when they grow up and they're already old people, it's not very easy to change their mindset at an older age. So it's this time, it is at this level that you're going to change these mindsets, that you're going to make it clear that agriculture is important. It's not just for the people who have not been able to get the profession that they want, and then they say, oh, let me go and do farming. But it's something that we should consider as a very important sector, a very important profession for us. And it goes beyond just the production. So that is where we talk about having this, including the entire value chain in the discussion, because after producing this food, where do you take it? Sometimes you take it to the market. How do you access the market? What means are you using? And do you realize that sometimes if you use the fossil fuel throughout the production, use the fossil fuel throughout the transportation, what is the impact of that on our environment, on the GHGs, the greenhouse gas emissions? So those are the things that we have to talk about with the children from the young age. And as Africa Center for Sustainable and Inclusive Development, we have a project on sustainable and inclusive food systems agents, where we're looking at these people as agents of change and not just looking at them as the vulnerable people. So this is when we work with the women in rural areas, we work with the women in informal settlements, and we work with the youth. Those who are just out of campus, those who are still in campus, and students who are in high school who are sometimes left behind. So how do we work with the students in high school? We work with them through creating the awareness, but also convincing them to also have the gardens within the school, and how this is important even within the schools, but also having that practical knowledge for future use for them when they go back to their homes. Sometimes they are school borders. When they go back to their homes, they're able to pass this information to their parents as well, and to the communities.
Yeah. And of course we know that the clean kitchen, or how do we cut down trees to firewood, and how the technology of biogas, of waste management, of charcoal, how we can create. It's an innovation coming along, and it's a technical, but it's also a cultural based innovation, because you have to in many ways get rid of the colonial hangover. Why do Zimbabwe import British tea or Indian tea when they in fact they have enough spices or greeneries to make their own teas? We shouldn't be imported. It's crazy. It's the colonial hangover. We have to get rid of some of the habits that is imported, and then again to have the beautiful and sexy recipes from Italy, and the slow food movement, that it gets cool to really go from farm to fork, and that youngster in Africa community would say, I like to be a chef, having outdoor braai, or having an outdoor picnic with a really beautiful food innovation and cooking innovation. And I think that as you said, rightly said, the women has the power in the kitchen, and that's where the livelihood, the food security, the heart of the families around the food. So that's also where the good conversations and fire chat conversation can happen on a deeper level to sustain and create a livelihood that is beautiful and thriving. So many beautiful connections, and of course you also mentioning seeds. Wangari Maathai from India, the power of the seed. Who is in control of the seed bank of the village and the families around the ecosystem to survive and thrive. So my dream is really to see that the World Climate School, as a newborn organization, like only a kid, like 2 years old, can really come together and work across borders globally. And I also have this idea that the World Climate School belongs to humanity. It's like a tree can be a teacher, a mountain can teach you something, it's the river can teach us something, and even snowfall can can be our teacher. So as nature is our teacher, the World Climate School has to welcome a different kind of ownership and organizational structure, and that's what part of working with Collins and everyone around the university and college network throughout Eastern Africa, but also in Southern Africa. And I really hope that we can connect it to the Northern Africa with my reference to Egypt. And most important, Salome, you don't know me that well, but I've been twice to India, and we're working and connecting with a school with 300 million inhabitants in the state, Uttar Pradesh, and over 60,000 students or children in the schools, physical school. And out of that school, we're working on a foundation for literacy and numeracy, and we have that speed learning in 30 languages, including Swahili. So we can connect that speed learning around in the kitchen, around the fireplace. You know, we can write A in the air or in the back of the back of a child's back or in the sand, and we can learn to accelerate learning. Speed learning as 45 days to learn to read newspaper in your native language. But with climate education, I think we can do in 6 days, we can change things fast as well if we really like to have speed learning for climate education. And the secret is in the kitchen and from farm to fork. So
that is very interesting, Inga. And saying the secret is in the kitchen and talking about having these conversations in the kitchen. I think those are some of the things that sometimes we forget, but those are spaces that we really need to take up, and especially if you want to have these women to be involved and fully involved and be in these decisions, we have to go to where they are. And we know that most of the time, especially in the African setup, the women will be the ones who are in charge of the kitchen. So if we have these discussions in the kitchen, then we'll be able to reach them in a better and more efficient way. But again, something that you've talked about on the clean energy, clean cooking energy, we need to take it up, but we need to be to talk about the financing of this clean energy, cooking energy. We talk about it, how are we going to implement it? So those are some of the things that we call for as an organization, that we have to have the inclusive, accessible food systems approach financing, whereby even the clean cooking energy, we talk about it, but how is it financed and how is it going to be accessible to these people?
Very interesting to hear. We also need to get the men into the kitchen, into that discussion about, the seed and the safe spaces where, this kind of, stories that, speak to the heart of the families and the communities emerge from. And I believe, Salome, I think we need to pick up this discussion probably after COP and see how we can connect.
Yes, I wish you all the best luck and success, and keep the spirit high and smile and be convincing in your strategy to get your objectives.
Thank you, Inga, and keep doing the good work. It's very interesting what you're doing with the World Climate School, the work in India and Zimbabwe. It's interesting. That is how we create the change we need, and I would want to learn more from you and what we can pick as an organization and implement in this side of the world.
Absolutely, we will be meeting soon. Okay, let's get a closing remark from you, Colin. So the two. Okay, no, let's do this, Salome. Let's do this. If you close your eyes and say that this is my ultimate goal for COP. What's your dream scenario? And I record that, and I put me and Collins away.
Thank you. My ultimate goal in being in Dubai is to have the food systems approach taken seriously and integrated in the outcome of COP28, and also to have inclusive, accessible finances, which are taking into consideration food systems approach and conflict sensitivity, because those are things that are very personal and happen to the marginalized communities that we work with. We're hoping that those are things that are going to be considered, and more involvement of smallholder farmers of the marginalized communities in climate action is going to be taken up, including the women, the PWDs, the people living with disability, and the youth. Thank you.
Okay. And at the end, is there anything you forgot to say that you really like to express, like very precise and consistent?
Thank you. I think I've said most of the things, but one thing that I can also add is the climate security perspective, climate peace and security perspectives in our discussions. That should also keep coming out clearly, and the health nexus. So, because climate change has specific impact on the planet's health, but also human beings' health. And also it has a nexus with conflict in most of the areas. So when you're taking our actions, we have to be consider the health perspective and be conflict sensitive in all our climate actions. Thank you very much, Inga. It has been great speaking with you today.
Thank you so much. I really think that the last sentence you said about the peace, culture, and climate change, and how we can really cultivate the new culture of peace. And I think that is also starting in the kitchen. So all the best, and have a safe travels, and thrive, and bless you. Thank you. Nice
Thank you.
It was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, what a remarkable young person. And I loved your bit about the kitchen.
Oh, yes.
And and getting the men in the kitchen. I actually cooked for my daughter today.
Absolutely.
And she said, for the first time, she said, you know what? This isn't half bad.
Yes.
I'm improving. I think Nico is still there, and he's there with us.
Yes,
Hey, how's the journey?
yes, I am.
You can speak
Not
now.
too,
I see your passenger is gone.
not too bad because everybody's drinking, so it's quite like a pub. It's quite good.
Yeah. That's good. The best place to be. Yeah. Trust you to find the train that's a pub.
Which is for like maybe 2 hours to Glasgow.
Yeah. So you know what, Inga, I have a small piece from someone you know as well that I'd like to play. And it's from Morris. He sent this to us a little while back. Do you remember him?
Of course I do.
Yeah. So it's about 7 minutes long, and it's his best wishes for us. It's for you. It's made with his producer. Morris is a young man, and the thing I found about so many of these people in Kenya, and I've only been to there, so I don't know about Zimbabwe, Malawi, as you know so many others, but they wear so many different hats. And he's a young man. He's a musician. We have an interview with him. Richard has done an interview with him about his life and his music that we'll have a chance to play another time. But he's also kind of a community worker, a youth leader. And what he told me before was he had studied sort of petroleum science and then realized he doesn't want to be in that world, and he sort of decided that he'll forego the higher earnings and work with his community instead. I think that's really kind of interesting, that aspect, as Salome mentioned about how when you grow your food, you have to be cognizant about how the oil and gas and coal that you might be using along, whether it's in the fertilizers or whether it's in the transportations, affect what you do. So, okay, let me show that now.
Yep. Welcome, guys, man. My name is Ali Simondre. I'm a climate artist, and today we have come with climate and art say podcast. We will be having hosts here, but for today we are me and Milans discussing about matters climate in Africa, in the world, in Kenya, and the developments around. And when we flow, we vibe.
Yeah. So I am Milan Peter, Milan SCHITTER, an artist and a producer. And recently I joined this movement of climate. And to me, it has brought a lot of things. To put my time and resources towards climate. Because it affects us. Either unataka ama hutaki, lazima itakuaffect. So we must address this matter. Hata tukiwa wasanii, we must take it seriously and try to push it so that others can see the importance of taking this matter seriously.
And it starts with supporting the climate agenda is not just like lip service. It's like you can see what we are using here, and we're not using plastic bottles. This is aluminium. So it's a deliberate decision of like being there for our mother nature and our climate. It's so sad, man. One of the challenges that we're facing right now, man, is our children don't have places they can go and play. Like, I can take my kids somewhere and I tell her or hapa ndipo tulikuwa tunachezea, this way we were playing football back in the days. They hawataamini, and then they won't believe. You take them to the river, you tell them this way we were swimming, pararo. Or that's like swimming competitions. They were international swimming competitions. Yes, so back then. Now you cannot like swim in the sewage. They'll be like, why are you doing this to your body? But it was not like that. It's always on my time. So one of our friends, man, say big up to David Cole and to It's For You movement campaign, that is coming up to create an alternative voice for the 12 days of COP. Kutakuwa na mkutano COP. I think they discuss in our trivia questions 12 days of COP kuambia wasema still lazima mwende hizo mamiti kubwa ili mweze cause the change. You can like invest something, plant trees, like do something and inaweza revolutionize the environment, Sio lazima kupanda miti peke yake. You can do other ventures kama sisi tuko na avo halisi but like start straight from nature, avocado, so kuna vitu mingi sana unaweza fanya in the climate space yenye pia inaweza kupea do. Sio lazima kusema ati hizi vitu ni voluntary. Unaweza fikiria kuhusu venye unaweza make sustainable. And that is what It's For You campaign is talking about, is teaching you about. So they will be signing up forms and you can sign up and be part of the movement for the 12 days and even beyond. Especially artists, man. We're talking about a lot of challenges that are happening right now. It's hard for even any artist to get hata pesa kidogo ya usanii, manze. Money is difficult to find. But if you get into climate space and talk about issues affecting the world, you can be able to do projects that can give you some small money. If you want to do that, tuko na studio tunaweza sponsor na one audio. We can do one audio for you. And it can open doors for you if you talk about climate change and any other issue in relation to the environment and to the world.
So what you said, you're supposed to. Let's now make a decision. As much as we do Sami and whatever, let's make a decision. Tuongelee history ya climate. Ndio hata wale those people at the top, the ones who control wajue you're being affected by their decisions. So if there is a decision to be made about a forest kitu inahusiana na forest, maybe something that in nature it's for us, yeah, sio yao. So if there's a decision to be made about how things should be run zenye zinahusiana na climate, we're supposed to raise our voices as artists, as influencers, as whoever you are. Raise a voice, ingia pale social media, raise a voice, sema kitu
manze. Na pia tukitoa mangoma za climate change, if you're a dancer out there, you can dance. You know, you can dance our songs. This part of the to create awareness kuhusu maneno man. Yeah, sio kila wakati tuna, you know, talking about other things. But right about now, we are about to go to climate trivia questions. We're going to be discussing just like 4 questions.
Yeah.
Random questions. I think zita pop up here on screen on your side. Each question 10 marks. So you can gauge yourself how much you know about climate change and the real issues that are talking about climate change. Now, funny thing about these things is that tunakupea information yenye, you know, sahi kuna a lot of NGOs yenye wana create climate change docket. Kuna a lot of companies sahi CSR, community social responsibilities zao with climate change. So unapata zinapea do kama NGOs zina create job opportunities kama hizi. So hizi ni one of the questions zenye unaweza ulizwa hapo. So kuna hii COP meeting. So how many COP meetings have been there?
And there you go.
Yes,
And
yes.
there was Morris and his producer, and they are amazing guys. You know, I think it's this part where just having those conversations, bringing the conversations beyond climate into the music world, into the people around.
Absolutely.
And you've been instrumental in doing that for such a long time. You talked about the humming for music. You talked about the peace people and so on. That you've been involved with.
Yeah, it will come. It will come. But the most important here was actually the message on the screen behind them. Did you see it? The TV, yeah. And you know, they it was like, and I with that reference, they've heard that the ice is melting in the north and in the south, and climate change is here. I can see that with that reference, I'd like to play something from the youth projects that we've been doing funded by Erasmus Plus in Europe, called the C6, and it's only a 2 minutes thing, but it has a relevance for Nico, who is in Glasgow, and also for you. I'm doing it for you, David, because it's about inner transformation, and and it will start with the waste in the River Nile in Glasgow, and from there you can just feel, and it has a reference to where our starting point is, that ideas are flying, and let me share, and we can see how this will be. I think you will like it, and I think everybody was. It's called a traveling meditation. So it's a traveling meditation for everyone who has been traveling to Dubai and to COP, and all the people that loves to travel. Yes, 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 yes. I can't hear you, David, but I can hear maybe Nico. So we're back now. It's
So I'm gonna mute because there's noise on the train.
absolutely. So we're back on the. We're close to 50 minutes to the top of the hour, as they say.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a lot about this transformation and the nature aspect, and we had a conversation with a young lady, and she was talking about kind of urban farming,
Of course.
and that was David M out of and he was talking with Elizabeth about that, and actually, it's very good in putting context because it kind of puts this aspect that nature isn't just in those places where we are not, and even in the very midst of kind of our cities, there's this part about how we blend it together, and I'd like to share that with you.
But how did you like this thing about inner transformation? And should we be ashamed for flying? Should we be guilty? We're using, carbon footprint is big when you fly.
Well, you know what I think. I mean, basically, I think that all of those things hide away the big issue. The big issue being that we keep producing oil and gas and coal out of the ground. And there are people who say, oh, it's because we demand, it's all driven by our demand until we cut the demand. Well, those are the suppliers talking. I mean, it's like selling drugs on the street. The drug seller is always going to say it's because people buy it. They're never going to take the view that actually if they stop selling it, if they stop keep producing it, then maybe there'll be fewer people buying it. So I think all of those things, they are part of the aspect of this, but really going back to the comment from my friend Koo this morning when she talked, we have to find our own anchor. We have to find our own origin. We have to find how that transformation begins. And for that, as I was trying to say when we came back on, and I found myself muted again, these senior moments are getting more and more frequent, unfortunately. We were there in Nairobi at the time of the African Climate Summit.
Absolutely.
And we made use of the Bomb Blast Memorial Park next to the convention center. And we called on people to come, and they came and had an amazing experience where what we asked them to do is simply to think of nature and dignity as gifts for them and say, here is nature and dignity for you. And to take a piece of paper and colors and to express how that felt, what that meant for them. And to go through that exercise, that activity, and taking as much time as they like, but just do it not in terms of trying to say what nature needs to be or how we need to treat it or anything, but just to connect with it as a gift for you. And to do that again with dignity, because we hear so much about the empowerment, the marginalized, as we heard earlier from Salome, the disabled, the women, the youths, in those things, those aspects about dignity in how we see ourselves, and out of that, how we see each other, and in reflection, how we see each other, and out of that, how we see ourselves.
Absolutely.
So we had some incredible art that came out of that, and I urge people to do the same. Just take that piece of paper, and then what we asked them after that was, how does it feel? And they all felt different. They all had this sense that they were feeling more connected, that somehow that they felt empowered, so somehow that they felt they had a voice in doing so, just by doing that. And we asked them to take that piece of paper and transform it, because that's a transformation that's coming from within, and that transformation from within needs to be embodied. And to embody that, you take that and make something out of the paper that you have made. Some made a box, some made a boat, some made a fan, some made a star, some made flower out of it, so that you can keep it with you and carry it along with you to remind you that you are that power from that inner transformation. That it is the inner transformation which gives you that ability to say, I am on this journey to face the climate challenges as a powerful person. And that's so deep within what we want to do with It's For You.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So that's agency for action. You know, that is it's the right to be creativity, to be creative, and that's the to have the action instead of actionism, activism, and instead of being a victim, being an agent for positive change. And it's in all management books, you know, the crisis is the mother of invention. And you know, by now that I've been living in Egypt, and not living there for long, but you know, I've seen the beauty of the desert, and I love it. And it's been like that for at least the last 2,500 years. I don't know, so in a way, this kind of the climate change is actually greening the desert. It's actually fighting poverty.
Some parts of it. Yeah.
So it's actually a solution. So even with the news from COP today, with the money on food security and small farmers support, it's actually understanding that comes forward as a gift to be celebrated, you know. And without you know, we've been fighting poverty, and people have been suffering for, you know, and still do forever. So the African continent will be celebrating that, you know, it's the mother innovation is activated on the African continent for Mother Earth, you know. And I think that's a beautiful story to share, because it's amazing. I'm kind of feeling optimistic in spite of everything, as long as peace can prevail on Earth, and we can be humming for peace. We can understand that that the globe is a pale blue dot, as they say, with seeing it from the moon.
Well,
and
that's
so.
Yes.
But I'm thinking we have a couple of minutes to go, and it's again. Let me.
Well,
we're closing in at 8 minutes, or this evening's conversation.
We're closing in 68 minutes.
Oh, do we have even one more hour to go?
Yes. I think it's because you are in Norway.
That's
exactly. And you are an hour ahead.
Oh, right.
So when you look at your clock, so if it's okay, I would like to give a chance.
Exactly, my dear.
To listen to listen to Elizabeth about urban farming, and her work there, and you know, the thing that you say about the empowerment and everything else. What I feel most optimistic about is the fact that all of the things that's going on, it is just slowly taking down all those structural barriers that impedes us from being able to be people. So, and this is another example of how empowerment comes about because of the climate.
Yeah. So tell me,
today's session. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. My name is Collins Manyasi, and I want to also invite my friend to say hello.
Hello, I'm Rakia Abshir, currently studying Bachelor in Business and Information Technology based in Nairobi.
Thank you, Rakia. So we are glad to connect with our friends in Nairobi, Kenya, in Central Kenya. And I'll also ask my friend David in our studio to just say hello.
Hello, guys. And my name is David Terian. I work here in Nairobi office. Of course, running the campaign It's For You, and having in mind that the COP28 is almost around the corner. I think we are now counting a few days to eat, and therefore we are ensuring that no stone is unturned. A campaign is being run under It's For You slogan, and we believe that if change has to be made, and this is the right time. So welcome, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. Yes, let's go to our guest today.
Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Elizabeth Kweki. I'm the founder of Doko Farms, an organization where we use eco-friendly materials to make urban gardening systems, and we're based in Murang'a, Kenya, and we are happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Over to you, David. I think I'll have to allow you now to proceed with the interview.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Collins. So I think the field will be ours together with Elizabeth, because we need to know more of exactly what you do, and maybe you can roll probably in the introductory part of it by telling us who exactly you are, because you might say Elizabeth and some people want to know deeper, because this interview is going globally. So who exactly are you and what exactly do you do?
Okay, so basically the notion of urban gardening has been there for a long time. And we know that most of the people that we have, they've been either using gunny bags, we have some who are using containers, and we also have some that are using hydroponics. And for a long time, actually, if you look at the news in Kenya, is that you find that most of the vegetables that are grown in Nairobi, Kenya, are grown using sewer waste. Yeah. And being based in Murang'a, I've seen most of the vegetables that are being grown, even though they're being taken to the urban areas, the farmers are still using like excess fertilizers and pesticides. And we've had so many complaints of how people are complaining about either they're having issues with the vegetables they are consuming, their stomachs are not okay. Like after they consume some vegetables, they have an issue. So that is kind of the beginning of why I started Local Farm, to ensure that people have access to organically grown food. But it was not just for them to just have access to organically grown food, but by creating small gardens. I believe even in urban areas, when you create those small gardens, you're also greening the environment in these areas.
Okay, I think when we see such brilliant minds coming up and coming up with such initiative, I think there is hope in the world. But let me come to my second question. You know that the climate change has actually has changed and is threatening food security globally, not in a country level, forcing farmers to seek alternative method of production. Maybe you tell us that your story regarding, tell us your story regarding the Doko Farm in dealing with such issues, and what inspired you probably to think of it and begin something like a Doko Farm and roll such an activity.
Okay, so just as I was saying that from my mom is my inspiration when it comes to farming. She loves farming. But as a result of her passion, I've seen her look for land outside from where I was brought up. I was brought up in an urban setting, Limuru, Kenya. And from that, at a young age, I was like, if she's going for a far place to search for this land, so that actually we can access the vegetables, I think there's a solution that people can make for these urban gardens. And when I looked at Wangari Maathai, she was advocating for greenery, and in urban areas getting greenery we only have great buildings. And I was like, maybe we need to create a solution that not only is going to help people to farm in urban areas, but a way we can help people to just be active environmentalists, while at the other end they are still urban farmers. But that was a journey still, because I remember I started urban gardening in the year 2017. And I was using containers, I was using drums, I was converting them into vertical gardens. And you realize that environmentalists were on my neck, because they're like, you're reintroducing plastics to the environment and you're trying to eliminate them. So sitting back for over 5 years, from 2017, I started with hydroponics. So we went to containers, and then I was like, no, people are still coming on my neck. You need to come up with a solution that is environmentally friendly. So in the year 2021, I participated in a competition with China, and they came up, they have these awesome products, and I was like, maybe I can source for a fabric, or maybe I can source for something that they can make for me that is eco-friendly for gardening systems. And that's why we came up with now the fabric gardening systems that are eco-friendly and biodegradable, meaning that you're taking care of the environment at the end of the day. We tested the products for 3 years before we introduced them to the market.
Okay. Thank you very much. Maybe let me roll to my third question probably. You see, the idea of climate smart agriculture is key for women and livelihood. How has been your journey disseminating climate action and information to rural communities?
Thank you. So basically, I think what David is asking is your work in terms of the smart kitchen gardens that you're actually working around in the rural areas and the urban settings. How has this been taken up by the women, and what's the impact of that in line to do with now the climate smart issues?
Okay, so the key thing is when you look at climate smart agriculture, you also have to look in dry areas. And I don't know, for the past 3 years in Kenya, we've had severe droughts in Kenya. And you've seen families that are going without meals. And for us as local farm, we had to empower these women because we believe that women are the active, some kinds in a way, like they kind of have the highest percentage of performing in agriculture. They are the ones who go to farm, they're the ones who go to search for these meals. So integrating climate smart agriculture into this was simply awesome because we have designs that are working for arid areas, and the key thing is for them to use less water and for them to farm, and at the end of the day they are able to have access to food. So we are not only dealing with urban dwellers, we're also dealing with rural areas, but we're specifically looking at semi-arid and semi-arid regions, areas where water is scarce. Yes, we know that we have floods right now, but we don't know what is going to happen in the next few months. And we need to let these women know that, yes, climate change is happening. Yes, yes, there are changes that we cannot predict what we're supposed to plant because farming is not as usual. Climate has changed. We are not expecting rains to come after 3 months or 4 months. Sometimes they're staying for 6 months. And in order for people to farm consistently, we have to farm differently. From what we are used to, we have to use something else different. And that's where we come in. We have to empower these women in the grassroots levels to show them that there is another way of farming. There's another way you can farm without following the usual weather systems. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And having talked of empowerment, probably let me ask, what are some of your training areas when it comes to climate? When it comes to kitchen garden. Yeah.
Okay, so when you look at the key areas is we look at how we tell people on how they're going to minimize water for farming, because water is key in farming.
Yeah.
And if we look at arid and semi-arid regions, we need an area where there's maybe some shade in a way, even though plants require sunlight, so that we can at least reduce the rate of evaporation. We also show them on how they can use either indigenous plants to farm, because you find that the indigenous ones are able to resist the environment better compared to now the ones that have been, we have the ones that have been kind of modified in the market. So you find that most of the time when you're training these people, you're telling them, instead of, because they usually have the seeds, the indigenous ones, the ones that are able to resist the weather, we're like, this is the type of plants that you're supposed to use. The new ones, the weather is going to be an issue for them. But if it's going to be now the old ones, the indigenous ones, those ones are the best when it comes to such areas.
I really like the idea, and actually what what you're talking about. Also, apart from empowering the urban areas, we're also going deep to rural areas, and probably that's bring about my question: what are some of the challenges that we are facing driving this noble initiative?
The concept is relatively new to the Kenyan market. That's an issue. And most of the people are used to the concept of containers. They're used to the concept of penny bags. Some are even used to the concept of we have to wait for 3 months for us to farm. And it's taking time, but you're still trying to kind of show people this is what you're supposed to do. We're trying to create more awareness, going to mainstream media stations of showing people how they can farm. We're also looking into maybe partnering with people. I'm looking at partnering with people in Laikipia, where the regions are so dry. And we have to kind of create a model farm for them to see that they can farm. The farm they have is like it's movable, and the water they're going to use is minimal. We need to change that narrative. Yeah. That's the
So
key.
basic. Nice. So how has been probably your experience on climate and livelihood, especially to women in rural areas?
How we connect the work that she's doing and the the economics around it, like putting money into the hands of the women and the young people using this kind of initiative, and how that also empowers the youth, especially those who cannot make it up to be in the cities. If you could just expand on that.
Okay. About bringing money to their pockets? Is that okay? The main thing is that when we look at now the arid areas and semi-arid areas, what I'm actually advocating for, we have gardening systems that are mainly rectangular in nature. Those ones are vertical gardens. And you find that within a space of like 2 meters by 2 meters, people can grow with like vegetables of like 500 plants within that vertical garden, a system that they can make themselves. And I believe that even if they grow vegetables like they're using like even if it's 2 to 3 buckets of water per week, they can be able to generate revenue from there. That's the key thing. But if they are not able to kind of, let's say they don't have access to the systems that we have, we can also show them on how they can farm without using the systems, but they are farming while conserving water, because we also have those designs that these people can use. But the key thing is that without showing them how they're supposed to farm in these areas, they are able to generate revenue from there. They are able to empower themselves, and either from the training that we give them of how they're supposed to do farming in arid or semi-arid regions, they are able to kind of translate that knowledge to other people, and without having like, what can I say, a repulsive, like what, a ripple effect on people. When you train like 10 people, they also go and train other people. I believe with that, we're not only going to show them on how they can have put money on for themselves, but they can also earn money by training others also. The same concept also.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for that. And I don't know if you can hear me now. We're almost winding up. Yeah, and maybe my last question, maybe regarding the young people, because I believe a bigger population of the climate activists, the young people are really coming on it. And maybe my question, how can you think that young people can build trust and ensure that the community projects are impactful? Because I believe you have worked with the community.
The thing of working with the community is you have to gain their trust. Like, it's good that you have this idea, but don't show them and then leave them. Don't show them and then leave them. One thing I'll say is that for young people is just be there for them. If they ask the questions, follow up with them so that at least they can have the confidence within themselves that they are capable of being part of climate change, of helping to kind of make climate better, but they also learn on how they can become better. Yes, we may go to the community and train them. This is what I've seen. But if you follow them up, they're like, at least I know where I went wrong, because the knowledge that you give them at first, they're like, okay, we learned this. we were shown this and this. But what if I make a mistake? What we follow them up? Because empowering our community is not just a one-way traffic. Because I believe if we empower a community of 100 people and we follow them up, we guide them through. At the end of the day, they're going to trust us and they're going to say that because this group of people helped us, because this young person helped us, we're also going to kind of translate that knowledge to other people. And maybe within those 100 people that you picked, the ripple effect of maybe 500 people or 1,000 people. So the key thing for young people, I would say, is kindly look for gaining trust with the community, show them
Yeah.
how they can work, and
Yeah.
follow them up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And maybe as we wind up, I know people are watching you globally. And allow me, I almost thought we are in a live session physically. I almost told you face this camera and give your final remarks. But anyway, you face your
Okay.
camera. That's on a light
Yeah.
note. Maybe your last message for people watching you around the globe as we wind up.
I wanted to ask you, like, how can students be involved in this in general, since they're part of the youth, right?
Yeah.
And they're currently in a, let's say, a path right now. So how can you involve them in this project so far?
Okay, so for students, what we're looking at is that we know that agriculture is being taught in schools, but not at the level of showing people, yes, it's in the curriculum, but the follow-up is a bit an issue. So what we're trying to create right now is we're trying to create programs for them from a young age, because we have the CPC system, but in high school, yes, we have the theoretical part, and we know that agriculture, what most of the time is, what really matters is what is in the field, not the theoretical part most of the time. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to partner with schools right now, coming up with the proposals where we're going to show people how they can create farms in urban areas, sometimes in urban or semi-arid regions. And then afterwards, the knowledge they gain, they're able to kind of, I think the beginning of everything is from a young age. And when that knowledge is inside, maybe the child gains that knowledge, they are able to translate it in their later life. So when you show them from either we're starting from the CBC, from grade 1, we're heading up to the secondary school. So right now I've managed to train like 20 students like from grade 1 to grade 6, because we usually take them in different groups. And you realize that these students, they love the knowledge that you're sharing with them. So that's the key thing. I think as youth, what you're supposed to do is, if you're coming up with initiatives of gardening, start with maybe the CBC students from grade 1 to either grade 6. And then from that time, they are able to gain that knowledge and translate it to either the farms that they're going to create. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much. I hope your answer to. Good. So maybe your final remarks as we wind up, maybe a message to people watching you around the world.
Okay. So my final words for people is that yes, we are campaigning for climate change. We have different methods of how we are doing this. And the little thing that you can do, whether it's planting a tree, whether it's creating urban gardens like I am, or like whether people are creating boreholes for people who are in arid and semi-arid regions so that they can manage to create, to projects of people recycling plastics, to cleaning up the oceans, whichever step that you choose to make. We are all working towards climate change. We are all working towards making our generation better, and either the generations that are going to follow us better. So each and every step that you take is important. And thank you so much for being here. And whichever step that you're taking, just know you're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Elizabeth, for your time. Actually,
Well. That's quite an incredible young lady. I'm trying to add us on properly together, and let me see if I can unmute you, Inga. There you go. Oops, I messed it up. You've done it yourself. Well done. That was quite a remarkable young lady in how it is. I think it echoes so much of the education thing you mentioned before. You know, the alpha and the empowerment, and I love this part where it says, you know, at the end of the day, when it's a farm, it's what's growing in the field that matters. It's that learning along there.
Yeah. So absolutely, no, it's amazing. But you know, it's again this. It's a day is a day to celebrate. You know, the news from COP is actually financial support to small farmers. I cannot judge if it's a lot of money and how it's going to be allocated and how it's going to be used. But you know, I believe seriously the processes are unstoppable. And look at this young lady. And the youth in Kenya, the youth on the African continent, they're not youth, they are leaders, you know? Yeah, they're leading the lives, and it's unstoppable. That's what I think.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that's very much the case. And, you know, I think there is one thing in all of this, and it's how Richard and I got involved in this whole thing in the first place. And it's a question that's impossible to answer, but it's kind of important to ask. Does it matter if nobody is actually reducing the production of oil and gas and coal? Does that matter at all? Because we are increasing the production all the time. We've heard Mark Campanelli talk about as long as the demand for energy is lower than the growth in renewables, we'll be okay. But what happens with the growth of renewables, we have this, back in the 18th century, there was a gentleman called Jevons, and he had this observation about how we would have a problem about, you know, how efficiency actually ends up leading to more demand as opposed to sating the demand, simply because we have it. And I read an article today about how the drive for things like green hydrogen, you know, is using all the renewable energy we're producing. And before we've displaced the oil and gas and coal, and there was a very exciting lecture by a gentleman called Charles Harvey. I think he was from MIT or may have been from Stanford, given at Stanford. I think he was an MIT given at Stanford, where he was talking about we are now pushed into this idea that we must do everything. And he says, when resources are constrained, doing everything is not the right thing. You have to organize to find out which is the most important to do first. So in doing everything, he was given the examples of how we are using the renewable energies to do everything instead of displacing the oil and gas and coal. So as a result, our demand grows for energy grows because we're doing everything, and in the panic we do more and do more. Is this aspect of kind of the panic leading to us doing far too much without any thought of what it implies. And so
there is just like I'm following you, but you know, in this kind of conversation, and now we are in an open mic, and it's nature is a boss, is a theme. Ideas are important. It's the wealth of our nations and our lifestyles that's setting the stage for the future. So in the conversation right now, we have many ways to drive our conversation. From COP today, the transformation of the industrial food industry is one thing. You know, it's a big topic. But then you have this thing of divorce the marriage between the oil, gas, and coal industries and the food industries. And you know, and here you have to help me, because in our preparation for the 12 days of COP, you and I have been talking to different people. We're trying to get ourselves up to understanding the complexity and how to navigate, you know, find the path forward. And there's many roads to Rome. So it's not about one solution is it's the best. It's not that kind of competing structures. But yesterday you were in a conversation with Pakistan, and I did not go to that conversation on the webinar that we integrated into our It's For You, or the rest of the team, and including you. But I kind of listen to just like one kind of sentences here, and I think that is wrong. And that was our friend Bill from New York, and from the International Rotary Club in New York. There is some kind of wrong here, and this is 100% wrong. It's the anticipation that the African continent will have a growing middle class, and there will be a competing structures and with us, the rich Western world, that has been causing the problem. That we have been causing that the Sahara is dry. Yes, we could have done, but it's at least 3,000 years. It is not true that my production of mushrooms in my garage, in the Meraki people do, will be a competing structure to go into the food production. We're not competing. It can actually grow in a circle bioeconomical that is localized in our local communities. And it's like the richest region in Europe is northern Italy. It's a family-based innovational center where food and spaghetti and the kitchen and the food culture is the slow food movement. And that is the mirror to the fast fashion. Is we going slow also on the food structure. And today I've learned that is happening in Africa. The young woman, she is actually leading a revolution from the kitchen, and it's cool, sexy, new recipes that they can bring in hydroponics, in urban farming, and they have and how to try that even through drought. So I'm feeling that there is like a revolution that we in New York, we in London, we in up north is not part of. The evolution of humanity and the richness of diversity is coming out of the African continent, and the middle class, or the way they like to bring forward reality, is not having everywhere. But it's not. It's the clean cooking stoves that is not cutting down trees, and to bring that forward, and it is possible.
I absolutely. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
It is remarkable, and it's fantastic in hearing it. I think that's a very, very positive thing.
Yeah. But what I don't like is the industrial oil mafia or the coal mafia. There's something black and dark that is actually thriving in economies like in Pakistan or in Nigeria. They are selling tankers on different harbors. It's like I don't know anything about it, but I understand it's going on in the big money market in trading, and that is the corruption of the big money. I don't know. It's the energy money that is strong. Big people with heavy money, big bank accounts are earning on trading. That is not for ordinary people. So,
well, yeah. I mean,
can you help me on this reflection in the middle of the night here? It's tough.
It's essentially it lies at the root of the reticence that Richard and I have about the progress we're making in some sense, because I see that we are on a train, and the train is moving in the right direction, or is trying to move in the right direction. The front of it, surprisingly, and it's reflected by what you say, is actually led by the young people in place in Africa, in Pakistan, or the people that we've spoken to. It's actually not the big wind farms and those sort of things. It's actually led by them because they are creating livelihoods that do not depend on oil and gas and coal, and go along in that way.
They don't. They don't depend on it. They can create life, equality.
And the back of it, unfortunately, is a massive engine that is pumping oil and gas and coal out. And it's going in the opposite direction because every year we increase. And this year we increase our oil production by each day compared to last year. We are producing 2 million barrels more every day than we did last year. Now, that's the scale by which we're going. Our back of our engine is going the opposite direction. So the question that we have is, do we actually need to go to the back of the train and shut the engine down? Because the way that it's being portrayed is we have all the money and financing for the front. And as long as the front of the train is moving okay, we don't have to worry about the engine at the back. At the moment, though, if you look at the climate devastation that we've experienced this year, the engine at the back is actually pulling the whole train backwards. And that part of it is what really kind of makes Richard and I concerned when we speak with people like Mark from Carbon Tracker, who's extremely knowledgeable and is really committed. And he expresses in this form, we need to make sure our energy demand does not grow faster than our renewable growth. Or the other way around, we need our renewable growth to grow faster than our energy demand. But this is like saying, because we have this insatiable demand for energy, and we don't always use energy in the most sensible way. You know, the vapes that Nico led us in that really hilarious thing to start with, those disposable vapes, they take up huge amounts of energy for the batteries in them, for the plastics that make them, and for the cleanup after you just chuck it on the ground. You know, they're designed to be thrown on the ground. We actually going wrong in so many different ways along there. So it does make me think, do we have to send someone to the back of the train and say, turn the engine off? You know,
you know, this is like the divorce. It means the plastic, for example, take Thailand or Asia, they have noodles and all are in small plastic bags.
Yes. And I love noodles, right? So I you know.
So but they all come in small and plastic bags, and that's the so they have, and that is real fossil fuel plastic production, 100%, and that is part of the waste problem. So you have a systemic relationship between the fossil fuel and wrapping around food, for example. And not talking about the production of food, but you have that divorce. It has to be done, or you know. So there is like kind of breaking some circles, and I think that it needs plastic treaty and law to stop some of these things. You know, stopping it upstream.
But
then you have the fashion industry again. It's the cheap polyester that can. So you have to. The fossil fuel have to withdraw out of the fashion industry, and we see that now the trend is to creative repairing and restyling and new fibers, and there's a new trend that is different in young people that is actually buying consumer goods like clothing. And then again, you have this incredible, crazy makeup and the lipstick store that you say that there's a luxury thing that is sustainable. That is also crazy. But on the other side, you have do-it-yourself, and you have lip balm made out of honey, and you know, and so there is a creativity. I really one is the love for Mother Nature, but I think I'm more in the love of the mother of invention, which is the crisis. I
think
I never heard anyone say that. I'm in love with the mother of invention, the crisis. You know, it brings something forward.
I think that's right in that sense, and I feel very strongly with that. And but the concern I have with that is in that world where you go along and you're able to say, as we've talked on many times, you know, if you're able to say, would you pay for a lump of coal not to be dug out? In that world that you describe, many people actually that we've talked to, pretty much to a person would say, you know, of course not. You know, all we need to do is to worry about the other side. If we invent enough good things, and it'll be okay, and we can leave it alone. And that's like the fentanyl problem. You know, if we invent enough ways to distract people, you never have a drug addiction problem uh, in that way. But our experience tells us that as long as you keep producing the drugs, they will be enticing people, because if it's not you, it's someone else. And our population is growing, and
So-
our world is growing. So that side worries me.
Yeah.
That
So-
we are so excited at the ingenuity that we think that we're not going to tear ourselves apart, because there's always going to be this supply of oil and gas and coal, which people can make money from. And they're going to do that because we're so excited by ingenuity that we want to create lots of new things. And without realizing that underneath supporting all of that is a very dirty form of energy. And if we don't actually actively shut it down, it's not going to shut down.
It's this is the message from COP28, that it has to be a lid and to stop. You know, it's the overall message. And Equinor is part of the Norwegian delegation at the Blue Zone, and so there is this industrial money-making machines are in Dubai. So in many ways, it's a blessing that things is happening in the dragon's nest, as you say, and or drawing that you made for all of us, David, that this is going to happen in Dubai. It is the capital and the melting pot for the fossil fuel industry and the new era of hot age era for planet Earth, because it's going to be hotter, you know.
Let me share this with you. Let me share the screen with you. This is Equinor, you know, kind of, and this is, I don't know how to pronounce it, Wind Tempered Wind Farm that powers the Guilfords and Snaresfields. And this is from Equinor, and they talk about why electrification of the offshore oil platforms is important. And they're creating huge amounts of renewables. This counts as the renewables that we're producing, but they're used to produce oil, gas, and coal. And so we are, and this is the energy demand that I'm talking about. We are turning instead of saying we produce renewables, keep the wind farms, they're just over there. Keep the wind farms, you know, put them on, and have that go along and displace the activities that relies on these things, and help us make that transition. What we're doing is we're using it to pump more, increase the production.
So
because
you know,
and that's the part.
But you know,
that's the part that I say.
Yeah, but you know, one of the things my worries here is like actually, like I've been in New Delhi during the closing down of the schools because of the pollution in the particle pollution in the air, and seeing the old cars and the oil and the traffic and the air pollution, and it mostly comes from the cars and the coal, burning of coal. But you know, it has to be. You have to talk about how to change the cars and to repair the cars in big cities like New Delhi or Karachi or Islamabad or Cairo. You know, there and still we know it's the black market of oil that comes into these cities. You know, they come from, I don't know from where, but you know.
Let me share this one. This is Co-India. This is November 24th, so a couple of weeks ago, and they're auctioning, you know, 60 million tons of coal in the second half of the fiscal year. So this is a country where, and what they're doing is they're auctioning it into, they're moving away. They want to move away from the surface mines, surface mining. They want to move into kind of the deeper mining, because they say that that's cleaner in addressing the sort of issue that you have. But all they're doing is they're still digging it out, and because it's deeper, it's going to need more energy in order to do so. And they're going to finance and produce that with their solar and other things to do it, so that they have cleaner, supposedly cleaner coal. Now, this is India. This is the situation that we have.
But,
So
but
I'm simply bringing up the point that on the one side, we talk a very good talk. On the other side, nobody thinks it's necessary to actually turn off the oil, gas, and coal. Everybody presumes it will naturally disappear.
No, during COP28, in many of the discussions, there's many people talking like you. You're not the only one. There's plenty of people, but it's not in the mainstream media as such.
But if you look at what happens is you have so many people who've divested from Shell, for example, Shell Oil, that the Shell Oil management is now gotten the carte blanche to turn themselves away from the renewables into a pure hydrocarbon company. They're actually stepping back because all the people with the influence as owners have stepped away.
No,
Again,
it looks like the oil companies are not using their money to invest in renewables, actually.
Exactly. They're stepping away because...
So they really have to understand they are fossil, they are old-fashioned. But on a personal level, I just like to share this because for me as a child, I was afraid of earthquakes. I think that was the most scary thing, to understand that the fire comes up from the earth and it explodes and etc. etc. And that it was like an intuition for me, like, oh, that's so scary. And then you have then it connected me to the understanding that they put like drilling into the earth where there is like fire, and like how far do they go? Do they go down to where it's like burning? Will it explode? Can they split up? What's going on? Are they able to put like a keep it like perfect, like so it's not leaking and they make an explosion? I could it was like intuition for me to say, how many holes can you actually drill and how is that going to work? And I was mostly scared for the fact that the planet is burning on the inside, and it's just like a small green carpet around, and then it's water, and it's like I had this kind of a child view, and I was scared for earthquake and explosions from underneath, and so I think it's so strange to say that you want to drill and everywhere to make the energy of the dark oily gold.
Yeah, but I mean I do think that people generally think that I don't know. I mean, so far we've never heard of anyone out of all the people we've talked to who says, look, we simply have to take charge and take over these companies, become their owners, and so that we can keep the assets in the ground. We don't hear anybody saying that. Everybody is talking about how we just need to move forward faster and hopefully detach ourselves. And that's the problem, because nobody actually wants to be on the side of saying, look, we've got to displace and replace the ownership so that we actually have responsible ownership, because they're not going to do it themselves. It's just not going to happen.
So it's very clear that governments need help of the multinational enterprises and people like you and Richard, and coming from the financing world. The other group of people we need is actually old money, like families, wealthy families on the planet that can come together, because I think they're facing a situation where they understand that the investment they've done can disappear, and they have to welcome the new the demand for humanity and from the global concerned citizens for our health of the planet and all living beings on the planet. So that's the other aspects. But when I wanted me to prepare for this conversation with you and being on live on It's For You, I was very kind of mentally preparing myself. I need to ask David, like, how can we really secure that we can lift up your brave statement of and desire to think that you can have say those sentences and has that clear idea that can change the world, the ownership structure of oil, gas, and coal. So,
it has to have support from people like Elizabeth Rousseau. It has to have support from someone like you. It has to have this awareness to say someone has to turn off that switch. We cannot just hope we'll run away fast enough and that the tide, the flood of this dirty fuel won't keep chasing us. So it has to have this sense that we got to send in an emergency team or whatever it is with a hazmat gear and everything else, and they're going to go and fight through all of this mass of vested interest and kind of, the jungles and the tangled, branches and everything, and go to that switch and be able to disrupt that ownership. And in disrupting that ownership, it's really the voices of all the people we heard. If they can come along and say, you know what, I will spend my 100 shillings, which is about £1 or $1 or €1 or 10 kroner in that sense. If I will spend my 100 shillings to keep that lump of coal in the ground, then that makes it economical for people to now start saying, hang on a minute, there's more than one way ownership can become profitable, and by being profitable, I can now invest in the urban farm. I can now use that money and invest in the empowerment of the individuals we heard. I can now invest in the agriculture in the semi-arid regions or in the arid regions in that way. Because I am now able to be paid for keeping it in the ground so that I can now use that money and invest in all those things. It's just a different direction. It's the same money flowing through. It achieves both objectives together. It turns the engine at the back that's trying to pull us away into one that's now running in reverse. We're reversing the oil and the gas and the coal. The history of it has been expanding. We're reversing it down. And in doing so, it's going to push the whole train forward. But it needs people to say that, so that the entrepreneurs and the potential investors can see that there is actually a market to this. So you talk of finance.
Yeah, no. But I think this can come fast. Let's celebrate the fact that the small farmers will be addressing some kind of support.
Yes, of course.
Financially, but I don't know how. Like, if it talks about money for Christmas,
well,
I don't have a clue about it, and if it's just like a repetitive structure of commitments that is not happening, and I don't know. I really
if we I go back to this. We have to remember, in this world today, all money is made from extracting oil and gas and coal. Because that's the energy that provides 80% of our energy. It provides all the things that we do to make the money. And therefore, small money is actually more sensible because it extracts less oil, gas, and coal than really big money.
Absolutely.
And as we heard from Elizabeth, it's not money, it's actually the knowledge and the education and the empowerment.
Yeah.
That's what made you so excited. That's what makes me so excited. That's what makes this such an amazing thing to be a part of.
Yeah. So, I do have a clip I'd like to share, but I'm not sure if it's too late. But it is my conversation with Jordan and Collins, and David was also there. We did a recording the day before yesterday, and it is about ideas and how ideas can fly, and it is about plastic. Because the plastic is part of the oil, gas, and coal, and how to so there is a kind of lifestyle change, also relationship to plastic, and people see it, they know it, and especially Kenya with one of the countries that really said we have to stop plastic bags, and it was So I think that
Why don't you start, and when we come to our time, we can always just pull it out a little bit, have final 30 seconds.
Okay, let's bring it on. Let's bring it on. It is this is for you. This is for all of you taking your time to listen to us and to follow us. And I'm sure it's boring after these 3 hours, but still there's stories to share.
It's never boring.
Celebrated.
It's Ragnarok.
It's Ragnarok. It's the end of the world.
Ragnarok. Yeah.
Oh, we should have a very depressive conversation one evening,
No. It's exactly you say. It takes the crisis to bring about the transformation, which is the message of Ragnarok. It takes the crisis to bring about the transformation. And exactly in the same way as in the series Ragnarok, which is well worth watching. I think it was produced by Sam Price or someone like that. The crisis, the bringing out of Ragnarok, brought the people together. It
really
massively democratized the change. And it gave room for people. It gave room for the giants. Everybody came together.
Yes.
And it's not a case of one against the other. It's a case of all of us together.
Okay, let's celebrate and listen to the last story for the evening. And here it goes. And I'm DJing this forward.
Hi, Jordan.
Yeah, hi, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you and welcome. This is Paul Manyasi from Nairobi, from the East for You studio. I'm glad to have you today on our East for You campaign. I want also to recognize my team, Inga from Norway, and my media guy David, who is actually in Nairobi as well. If you can just have them come to the stage for a little bit as we proceed. Thank you, Inga and David. Glad to have you today, Jordan. So I just wanted to have you introduce yourself briefly, who you are, what you do, as we pick up our discussion today. Welcome.
Okay, my name is Jordan Dirango Gidire. I am the chairperson of the Environmental Society of USIU Africa. I am also a student on pursuing my undergraduate degree in international relations. Yes, and I'm very passionate about the environment. I believe I got this from both my parents. They are very passionate, and I inherited that. In everything I do every day, I find myself gravitating towards environmental care and just environmental sustainability. So yeah, that is who I am. There's a lot more to Jordan, but I think for this, that should be sufficient. I was elected as the chairperson of the Environmental Society in July this year. But before that, I was the Sustainable Living Officer. So sustainability has been my job for a really long time. We do a lot through the Environmental Society. I'll call it ENSO. ENSO is the one club that actually challenges and champions for change on campus. We want to promote green spaces. We want to reduce the carbon footprint. We want to create sustainability. We also want to create a community that makes these ideals be promoted and and not just end where we end, but also continued even when we graduate. The Environmental Society is a big club. We have about 250 members. I think the next one after us has about 100. So we are one of the bigger clubs in the school, which means we are able to do a lot more than we'd like to do. So far, ENSO has a lot going on. We are actively involved in recycling plastic. Actually, today I was able to deliver some plastic to Pure Planet recyclers. Last week, we were able to deliver 690 kilograms of paper to Chandaria Industries, who recycles and repurposes this paper into new tissue, new serviettes. And we believe that it makes much more sense to use our old exams to create tissue instead of cutting down trees. So that's something we actively do. Every semester we do have a paper recycling drive. Throughout the semester, we have a bi-weekly schedule that's actually going to be taken down to a weekly one because of demand, where we recycle the plastic. So far, we have recycled 718 kilograms of plastic that would have been incinerated. Over and above that, we do have a lot of reforestation projects. We've worked together with organizations, we've worked together with the administration, police, some of the area chiefs who have been able to help us plant a total of 346 trees. And all this is from September till now. So it's not the year, it's just for 3 months. Those are our numbers.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's very impressive, and the potential to do more is limitless. Yeah, so that's what we've been able to do this semester. We planted 346 trees in different locations on campus. We've also planted about 40 flowers, and we continue to do more. We also try and give people trees if they are unable to plant on campus, then they can go and plant them at home. Our motive is not just to make USIU green, but to make the world green. And if someone isn't able to do that on campus, then they're able to pick up seedlings and go plant them at home. So we do try a lot, but there's only so much we can do as the 250 of us. We can't really solve the world problems, but we try and actively make an impact in our community and the surroundings of the USIU campus. In addition to that, we have made donations to organizations that take care of animals. The Environmental Society is not just about the plants, we're also about animals. So seeing that we're limited in how we can be able to take care of the animals around campus, we have partnered with the organization that does that, takes in strays, gives them medication, and rehabilitates them to a point where they can be adopted into a loving family. So we support organizations like those, and we work with a lot more. But there's only so much we can do as students, given the numbers and the location that we have. But we try and do as much as we can. Yeah.
Definitely. It's amazing work that you do.
Thank you.
And I think the small steps in the right direction, that brings everything forward.
Yeah.
And you know that we are here for the 12 days of COP, but at the same time, we like to spotlight what's happening on the ground. And where, as the presentation said, says that we not everybody can fly to COP and be there and to present and think that we have an influence, but actually what's needed is actually to work on the ground in our own backyards. And so it's amazing to see what you're doing and how we actually can activate universities, students, and do what you can do. You know, there is a limit to what you can do, but still, it's important.
I want to pick from one of the important aspects that Jordan has mentioned, and from where I sit on the advisory board for the East African Campuses and Colleges Green Network. One of their slogan is actually turning climate action into livelihoods, and your story about the plastic idea and how it goes into the partnership with the industry and tissue paper is really an inspiring one. Briefly, maybe for those who really wanted to get more to know about how you do it, and they're asking, where do you get these plastics? How did you get to connect with the industries? How this idea also.
And we got the idea just germinated into something, and now we actually make money from actually all the recycling we do is profitable. So yeah, it just came about as an idea. Then the idea was put into a community. The community, together with our technology and our Gen Z connotations, we were able to put the ideas together and actually make ends meet.
Yes.
And form partnerships,
Yes, yes. And what's interesting here in the conversation with you in Kenya is that you've been looking at to make a football match. And with the football match here, you can see the partner here is FC Barcelona. So the football stadium is actually part of the ticketing and to recycle plastic. So it's not only that you're collecting the plastic and getting a reward for it, but you also promote. So this is one of the many partners we also can engage with in partnership with the football engagement that you have presented so far. I will stop sharing now, and it could be the same company structure, but there are many enterprises and into the business. So an activity like football, an all-star game of famous football players, famous athletes that comes to a session on fundraising. And yeah, any comments on that? Maybe David or Collins or Jordan?
I think that's very interesting. And actually, one thing I've noticed from the recycling that we're doing is that when a large amount of people are gathered together, there's going to be waste. If it's in a church, if it's in school, if it's in a football ground, there's going to be waste. And if you're able to turn that waste into wealth, then you're doing very well. So I believe that's a very good initiative. Yeah.
We're living in such an exciting times, and I think with the creativity and the ideas that fly around the globe, it's inspiration. Here is for Adventure of Humanity, and this is an organization that is working with Nelson Mandela's Foundation. It's my friend and partner Richard Nilsson, who is working on multiple initiatives, and one of them is actually on football, like the all-star game happening in Brazil. And exactly because we want to inspire our wow. This is part of the inspiration that we can have from around the world. The ideas are flying. But if we start small with the first idea of a football game in Nairobi, and we connect it to schools and play and schools on the university level, but also on the youth and youngsters. Yeah. So
thank you, Inga. So
Well, that was an amazing story there, and we're coming towards the close of our session for today. And we will continue on and hear about the football and the tournaments and the activities all along there. It's just amazing, Inga. Your connections, your insight, they really kind of give. I could see Jordan's eyes just kind of like popping.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you have made a friend.
I think maybe, but it's not yes, of course, we have made new friends in Nairobi. But you know, I know that Kaka, I know that Collins, I know that Tim, I know with David, I know Irene, I know with Maureen, and all the team that I don't know. They are working behind the scene, and they're working every day on their own livelihood and creativity. So it's like the ideas are starting really to
coalesce, to come
no,
about. They're beginning to form, coalesce. There.
falling down to the ground. And
No.
Jordan, at the end of this conversation, he said that my father used to tell me that our mind is like a garden, and an idea is like a seed that when you first have it into your mind and you cultivate it, it can grow and manifest. So at the end of that conversation with Jordan, that was his conclusion at the end. And that's what I think was the most beautiful thing in that dialogue and conversation we had on the late hour in Nairobi, across the world, across the time zone, across the age, and I think it was
a great,
beautiful.
What a great conversation.
It was really great. Thank you so much, and thank you for the evening together with you. It is 2nd December. It is a Saturday, and everyone else is out celebrating, but I feel I'm celebrating too. So.
It's for you.
Thank you. It's for you.
Thank you. That's our industry. Good night to everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow. We